They say money reveals who you truly are. But what if temptation is placed right in front of someone who has every reason to take it, and still doesn't? On a warm, unusually quiet afternoon, sunlight streamed through the towering windows of the Marrow estate, turning the luxurious drawing room into something that looked almost unreal. Golden picture frames gleamed against the walls. Deep red velvet curtains hung perfectly still. The marble floors reflected the light like polished glass. And right there, at the center of the room, sat something that didn't belong in a place of elegance and order. A mountain of cash. $50 bills, hundreds, 20s, spread openly across the table as if someone had carelessly dumped a fortune and walked away. No briefcase, no security, no explanation. Behind that table, slumped into an ornate leather sofa, was Alaric Voss, billionaire, industrial giant, a man whose name made boardrooms go silent. Known for his sharp mind, colder-than-ice demeanor, and absolute belief that the world worked on one simple rule: people look out for themselves. His eyes were closed, but he wasn't asleep. Alaric Voss was testing something he had never been brave enough to question before. Earlier that day, he had overheard one of his board members scoffing about poor people with quick hands and loose morals. The words were spoken casually, confidently, as if they were facts carved in stone. Alaric hadn't defended anyone. He rarely did, but the comment stuck with him, scratching at the back of his mind like an itch he couldn't ignore. Was honesty really a luxury only the rich could afford? So he decided to find out. Not with spreadsheets, not with surveys, but with a test so bold it bordered on absurd. Leave a fortune in plain sight. Pretend to fall asleep, and see what happened. But he wasn't interested in testing his executives or staff. They had too much to lose, and too much to hide. The person he wanted to test was a child. Mara. She was 7, maybe 8, small for her age, quiet, the daughter of Estelle, the estate's maid. Her clothes were clean but worn thin, patched so many times the fabric looked like a map of past repairs. Her eyes carried a tiredness no child should know, the kind that comes from watching your parent struggle and pretending not to notice. Alaric had seen her dozens of times. She never asked for anything, never wandered where she shouldn't. She sat patiently in corners, drawing on scraps of paper or watching the world with a silence that made adults uncomfortable. That afternoon, Estelle stepped out to wash linens, leaving Mara alone in the drawing room. That's when Alaric leaned back, loosened his tie, tilted his head, and closed his eyes. He didn't know what he expected. Maybe the girl would run. Maybe she would cry. Maybe, just maybe, she would take the money. Not out of greed, out of need. What he didn't expect was the silence. Mara noticed the money instantly. Her steps froze mid-motion. Her eyes widened, not with excitement, but with fear. She approached the table slowly, as if the bills might jump at her. Her fingers trembled as she reached out, barely brushing the edge of one crisp $100 bill. Then she pulled her hand back. Alaric felt the change in the room. He could sense her internal struggle like a physical weight. She wasn't thinking about stealing. She was thinking about survival. The sunlight caught her face, revealing dirt smudges on her cheeks and the softness of a child forced to grow up too soon. A quiet sniff broke the stillness. Just one. She picked up a single bill. Alaric's breath nearly betrayed him. This was the moment, the proof, the confirmation of everything he thought he knew. But instead of stuffing it into her pocket, Mara gently placed the bill back on the table. She smoothed it carefully, flattening the edges as if apologizing to it. Her lips moved, whispering words too soft for him to hear, but heavy enough for him to feel. Then she did something that shattered him. Mara reached up and removed the small wooden hairpin holding her messy ponytail together. It was simple, roughly carved, clearly old, probably handmade, probably precious. She placed it carefully on top of the pile of money. Like a trade, like an offering, like a promise. Her voice trembled as she whispered, not to Alaric, but to the money itself. She said she would never steal. That her mother told her honesty was the only thing they owned that couldn't be taken away. That she wished she could buy medicine, new shoes, a warm blanket. But not with stolen money. Never with stolen money. Alaric felt a burning behind his eyes, a sensation he hadn't felt in decades. He stayed still, afraid that if he moved, the moment would disappear. Mara stepped back from the table, shoulders curling inward as if shielding her heart. She whispered again, firmer this time, reminding herself she was strong enough to walk away. And she did. She crossed the room quietly, sat near the window, folded her hands in her lap, and waited for her mother to return. That was when Alaric Voss broke. He opened his eyes slowly. The sunlight felt harsher now, not because it had changed, but because he had. The money meant nothing. The test meant nothing. All he could see was that small wooden hairpin resting atop a fortune. He picked it up carefully, feeling the uneven grooves beneath his fingers. It was the most valuable thing anyone had ever given him. Alaric turned toward the girl by the window and walked over gently. When Mara noticed him, her eyes filled with panic. She thought she was in trouble. Instead, Alaric knelt in front of her and placed the hairpin back into her hands. He told her she had taught him something no amount of wealth ever could. That her honesty had exposed a truth he had ignored his entire life. That kindness like hers deserved protection, not punishment. And then he made her a promise, one that would change everything. Her life, and her mother's life, would never be the same again. Not because of money, but because of integrity. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to the world. And tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Mara's place?